A night of misstep, she wakes up next to a stranger. Who knew he was a billionaire? London, the city that never sleeps, glows brightly under the neon lights reflecting on the shimmering surface of the Thames River. Inside the Langham, one of the city's most luxurious landmarks, the atmosphere is filled with laughter, the clinking of glasses, and the soothing melodies of soft jazz music. Amidst the bustling farewell party crowd, Clara Bennett stood there, radiant in an elegant black dress, her soft brown hair cascading gently over her shoulders. Her striking blue eyes sparkled with intelligence and determination, embodying a woman of confidence and strength. At 27, Clara was a brilliant financial expert working for one of London's top corporations. Her career was at its peak, marked by remarkable successes, and tonight, she allowed herself to step away from the dry world of numbers to spend time with her best friend, who was about to move to New York. Clara had always been someone who knew how to control herself, but under the enthusiastic cheers of her friends and the allure of colorful cocktails, she began to feel her head spinning. "Just one more drink, Clara." Amelia, her best friend, giggled, pushing a glass of shimmering red wine toward her. "Just one," Clara smiled wryly, taking a sip. But even a small sip was enough to dissolve the pressures of work, the tense meetings, and the fierce competition. As the party stretched into midnight, Clara felt her legs growing unsteady. She decided to leave, declining her friends' invitations to stay longer, and stepped into the lavish hallway of the hotel. The space blurred under the soft golden lights, and in her hazy state, Clara accidentally entered room 1208, thinking it was hers. The room was filled with the gentle scent of sandalwood and whiskey, the dim lighting from the bedside lamp casting a strangely cozy atmosphere. Without bothering to check, she sighed in relief, kicked off her high heels, and collapsed onto the bed. However, less than a minute later, a deep male voice startled her. "Who are you?" Clara opened her eyes to see a tall man standing before her, his dark hair perfectly tousled and his sharp gray eyes piercing. He was wrapped in a towel around his waist, his hair still damp from the shower. His gaze held a mixture of curiosity and amusement at the sight of Clara lying comfortably on his bed. I entered the wrong room," Clara stammered, feeling the alcohol evaporate from her system almost instantly. The man smirked slightly, his eyes twinkling with amusement. "You seem quite at ease with your mistake." A wave of embarrassment washed over Clara, but she couldn't deny one thing. The man before her was undeniably attractive. His gaze seemed to penetrate through her defenses, stirring emotions she had long suppressed. "Sorry, I'll leave right away." She hurriedly stood up, but her feet caught on the plush carpet beside the bed, causing her to stumble. The man quickly caught her, their proximity so close that Clara could feel the warm, minty breath brushing against her skin. "Actually, I don't mind," his deep voice murmured, a mischievous glint in his eyes. "But perhaps you should sit down for a bit. You don't look very steady." Under the influence of intoxication and the irresistible charm of the stranger, Clara didn't protest. She sat at the edge of the bed, her mind spinning with 1,000 conflicting thoughts. Something led her. Perhaps it was the lingering effects of the alcohol or the magnetic pull of the man beside her. That night, Clara and Peter found themselves caught in a whirlwind of passion, an intoxicating storm of emotions with no hesitation. The next morning, the soft sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow on Clara's delicate face. She opened her eyes and a wave of panic surged through her as she realized she was lying in the arms of a stranger. Her mind raced to recall what had happened the night before. The steady rhythm of Peter's breathing and his warm skin against hers sent her heart into a frenzy. Determined not to complicate things further, Clara carefully slipped out of bed, gathering her scattered clothes and hastily putting them on. She glanced at Peter, his handsome face still serene in sleep. "This never happened," she whispered to herself, tiptoeing to the door and slipping out as if fleeing. Out in the hallway, Clara took a deep breath, trying to regain her composure. She reminded herself that this was just a mistake, an insignificant incident, and she would carry on with her life as if nothing had happened. But what Clara didn't know was that fate had other plans for her. Welcome to today's story. Let us know which city you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. 2 months after that fateful night, Clara Bennett stepped into the grand headquarters of Grayson Holdings, ready for a fresh start. The towering skyscraper stood in the heart of bustling London, its glass facade reflecting the gloomy autumn sky of England. Pulling up the collar of her coat, she stood before the revolving doors and took a deep breath. Since receiving the job offer from Grayson Holdings, Clara had been thrilled. This was a leading financial corporation with countless opportunities for advancement, a significant step in her career that she could not afford to miss. She had worked tirelessly to earn this position, and no one could stand in her way, especially not a minor incident from her past that she was determined to forget. Walking into the grand lobby, Clara was impressed by the modern and professional atmosphere. Employees moved briskly with files in hand, the rhythmic tapping of high heels resonating across the polished marble floor. She adjusted her handbag and approached the reception desk. "Good morning. I'm Clara Bennett, the new employee in the finance department." The receptionist offered a professional smile. "Welcome, Ms. Bennett. HR is expecting you on the 20th floor. You can take the elevator on the right." Clara nodded, thanked her, and swiftly entered the elevator. On the way up, she couldn't help but feel a bit anxious. A new job, new colleagues. It was an entirely fresh start, but she reminded herself to stay focused and not let anything distract her. The first morning went smoothly. Clara quickly adapted to her new team, showcasing her sharp financial analysis skills. Everything was going exactly as she had hoped, until HR announced a company-wide meeting in the afternoon to welcome new employees and discuss upcoming strategies. She entered the large conference room where over 100 employees were already seated. Clara found a spot near the back, telling herself to just listen and avoid drawing attention. She focused on the large screen as the HR director's voice echoed through the room. "Good afternoon, everyone. Today we are honored to welcome the CEO of Grayson Holdings, Mr. Peter Grayson, who will share his vision for the company's future." Clara's body stiffened, her entire being frozen in place. That name, it couldn't be. From the grand entrance at the far end of the room, a tall figure walked in. Dark, perfectly styled hair, piercing gray eyes, and chiseled features. Peter Grayson. The entire room was filled with admiration and respect. But for Clara, it felt as if the ground beneath her had crumbled. The man she had been trying to forget for the past 2 months, the one with whom she had shared a passionate night, was now standing before her. Not in a distant hotel room, but in the conference hall of the very company she had just joined. "Good afternoon, everyone." Peter's deep, captivating voice filled the room, breaking the silence. "I'm pleased to see you all again. Together we will make significant strides in the coming year." Clara felt her heart pounding against her ribcage, her fingers tightening around the pen in an effort to stay calm. She stole a glance upward, only to find Peter's gaze fixed on her. A flicker of surprise crossed his eyes, followed by amusement and a knowing smirk. Quickly she looked down, avoiding his eyes. "Stay calm, Clara. This is just a coincidence," she reassured herself. But deep down, she knew this was a coincidence she couldn't easily escape. After the meeting, Clara hurried out of the room, determined to avoid Peter. She buried herself in work, striving to minimize any situation where their paths might cross. But Peter seemed to have entirely different intentions. The first time as Clara stepped into the elevator after lunch, a strong hand stopped the doors from closing. Peter entered, standing next to her, his alluring cologne filling the confined space, making it hard for Clara to breathe. "Do you often find yourself in the wrong room, Clara?" he murmured, his voice laced with amusement. Her cheeks burned as she avoided his gaze. "I don't think we should talk about that, Mr. Grayson." Peter raised an eyebrow, his signature smirk appearing. "Don't call me Mr. I believe we're past that stage, aren't we?" As soon as the elevator doors opened, Clara rushed out as if escaping. The second time, during a financial team meeting, Clara was presenting a new investment strategy when the door opened, and Peter casually walked in. He leaned back in his chair, his gaze fixed intently on her, not once looking away. After the meeting ended, he approached slowly, his eyes gleaming with mischief. "Impressive presentation, Clara. I hope your focus isn't being affected by personal matters." Clara clutched her documents tightly, forcing a polite smile. "Work is work, Mr. Grayson." Peter chuckled softly, his gray eyes twinkling with intrigue. "Keep that professional attitude. I do admire intelligent, strong women." Clara turned away, her heart racing, realizing that he had no intention of letting her off so easily. Despite her efforts to maintain distance, the constant encounters with Peter made it increasingly clear. The undeniable attraction between them was impossible to ignore. Every time their eyes met, a spark of electricity shot through her. Every time he stood close, her breath quickened. Though she refused to admit it, Clara knew she was being drawn into an emotional whirlwind beyond her control. One late evening, while she was still in the office working on a project, Peter appeared at the door, holding 2 cups of coffee. "We can't keep avoiding each other forever, Clara," he said, his voice gentler than she had ever heard before. Clara looked at him, and in those gray eyes she saw sincerity, something deeper that she couldn't resist. "We should keep things professional, Peter," she whispered. He took a step closer, his breath warm against her skin. "Professional? I think we crossed that line a long time ago." Clara knew this battle wouldn't be easy, and perhaps she didn't want to fight it anymore. After several tense encounters and sharp exchanges, Clara gradually realized that Peter Grayson was not just a powerful man, but also someone with a deeper, more thoughtful side than she had ever imagined. Peter did not pursue Clara hastily or ostentatiously. He was subtle, skillful, and patient, like a seasoned chess player. His seemingly accidental gestures carried a special kind of attention that she couldn't ignore. During a critical project on expanding the company's European market, Clara devoted herself entirely to coming up with bold and innovative solutions. After her presentation ended, she returned to her desk to find a steaming cup of coffee placed neatly beside her documents, accompanied by a small note. "Black coffee, light sugar, just the way you like it. I believe your strategy will change the company's landscape." "A G," Clara smiled, her heart fluttering. She couldn't deny that Peter's subtle attention made her feel valued and appreciated in a way she had never expected. Beyond the coffee, Peter always seemed to appear exactly when she needed support the most. When her project faced financial setbacks, he personally instructed the accounting department to prioritize the issue, helping her avoid an unnecessary crisis. Their initial conversations, once strictly professional, gradually evolved into more personal exchanges during their late-night work sessions. "Do you always work this hard?" he asked one evening when they were both still at the office. Clara looked up from her screen, raising an eyebrow. "Hard work is the only way to achieve success, isn't it?" Peter smiled, his eyes glinting. "Success isn't just about effort, it's also about having the right companion along the way." His words left Clara momentarily silent. Before she could respond, he had already walked away, leaving her with a whirlwind of thoughts she wasn't ready to confront. Gradually, Peter's attentiveness extended beyond work. One evening, as Clara was preparing to leave the office, a message popped up on her phone screen. "I know a great Italian restaurant. Would you like to switch your workspace for a cozier atmosphere?" Clara glanced around and smiled softly. She had once avoided him, but now the thought of having dinner with him no longer scared her as it did before. That evening, at a cozy little Italian restaurant in Notting Hill, Clara realized that Peter was not just a powerful figure in the financial world, but also a man with a refined sense of humor and a rare sincerity. "You're not always as cold and serious as you are at the office, are you?" Clara teased, her fingers tracing the rim of her wineglass. Peter chuckled, the soft lighting reflecting in his eyes. "The office is a different world. There, I need control. But with you, I'm just Peter." His words made Clara's heart skip a beat. It was the first time he had addressed her so intimately. Their relationship quickly deepened, yet they both knew that revealing their romance at work could bring unwanted complications. They were cautious with every action. Stolen glances across the conference table, accidental touches while reaching for coffee in the pantry, and fleeting text messages exchanged during intense work hours. "Do you think keeping this a secret makes things a bit dramatic?" Clara asked one weekend afternoon when Peter picked her up from a small cafe near her home. Peter smiled, gently taking her hand. "Maybe, but doesn't that make it more exciting?" She laughed, but deep inside, Clara knew this relationship couldn't remain a secret forever. At the same time, Clara was solidifying her position in the company. She was not only an outstanding employee, but also a sharp strategist, consistently making bold decisions that drove the company forward. During a crucial board meeting, when a rival firm attempted to acquire a subsidiary of Grayson Holdings, Clara stood firm, presenting data-backed arguments that proved the company's capability to remain independent without selling off any assets. Peter watched her from across the table, his eyes filled with pride. After the meeting, as the room emptied, he approached her. "You're truly remarkable, Clara. I never doubted that." Clara smiled confidently. "I'm not here just to build a good resume, Peter." He nodded, his voice turning softer. "I know. That's why I can't stop thinking about you." Those words made Clara realize how deeply their connection had grown. Their love became more intense with each passing day. Clara saw through the powerful and seemingly aloof exterior, discovering a man full of emotions, willing to fight for what he cherished. She no longer doubted her feelings for him, but could their worlds truly align without turbulence? Clara knew that sooner or later they would have to face reality, the scrutiny of the media, and the strict expectations of his family. For now, though, she simply wanted to cherish every precious moment with him. Whether it was late nights at the office or romantic candlelit dinners. Peter, too, found it harder to conceal his emotions. He wanted Clara to be a permanent part of his life, but they both understood it wouldn't be easy. One evening, as they walked out of the office together, Peter looked at Clara and asked softly, "Are you ready to step into my world?" Clara met his gaze, unwavering. "As long as you're by my side, I'm not afraid of anything." He held her hand tightly, as if making a silent promise for the days to come. Yet neither of them knew that the real storm was just on the horizon, ready to test their love and resilience like never before. The relationship between Clara and Peter seemed as though it could quietly and steadily endure in secrecy, but life rarely follows such plans. One rainy afternoon in London, as they stepped out of an upscale restaurant in Mayfair, the sudden flashes of cameras startled Clara. The relentless burst of flashing lights captured Peter holding Clara's hand, his gaze filled with tenderness. Before she could react, he quickly pulled her into the waiting car. This can't be happening," Clara stammered, staring at her phone screen as online tabloids began flooding with images of them, accompanied by sensational headlines. "Powerful CEO Peter Grayson and his subordinate, an office romance?" Clara Bennett, the mysterious woman who has captured the young billionaire's heart? The media, like a relentless predator, delved into every detail of Clara's life, from her personal background and academic achievements to her past relationships. Meanwhile, whispers and murmurs spread through the office, surrounding Clara with curious and at times envious gazes. "I never thought Clara could get close to the CEO like that. She's so ambitious. Is this her shortcut to a higher position?" The gossip only grew louder, and every time Clara entered a meeting room or walked down the hallway, she felt countless eyes following her. Despite trying to stay focused, the relentless speculation infiltrated every aspect of her daily life. If the pressure from the public wasn't suffocating enough, the opposition from Peter's family was even more daunting. Lady Eleanor Grayson, Peter's aristocratic and formidable mother, personally requested to meet Clara over afternoon tea at the Grayson family estate. Clara arrived maintaining a composed and professional demeanor, but her heart pounded as she faced the imposing woman. "Bennett, isn't it?" Lady Eleanor sipped her tea gracefully, her gloved hands exuding elegance. "Do you know what the Grayson family's built on?" Clara offered a polite smile, keeping her composure. "Dedication and long-term vision, ma'am." Lady Eleanor's cold gaze bore into Clara, as if trying to strip away every layer of her thoughts. "Precisely. And the last thing we need is a woman with no pedigree, no title, and no value that aligns with our legacy." Clara felt each word like a sharp blade, but she refused to waver. "With all due respect, ma'am, I am not defined by status. I am confident in my abilities and my worth." Lady Eleanor placed her teacup down with calculated precision, her eyes growing colder. "Confidence? How far will that take you when women like you will never truly be accepted?" You think Peter loves you, but love is fleeting. Family and honor, those are eternal. Clara clenched her hands under the table, striving to suppress the whirlwind of emotions rising within her. Day by day, the media frenzy intensified, relentlessly dissecting their relationship. Clara was constantly photographed, whether leaving the office, attending meetings, or even shopping. Her private life had become public fodder. Peter did everything in his power to protect her, cutting down on press conferences, issuing official statements that their relationship did not interfere with work, and even leveraging his influence to suppress the rumors. But none of it seemed to be enough. The mounting pressure weighed heavily on Clara. Colleagues' gossip, scrutinizing glances, and even anonymous threatening emails began flooding her inbox. Each night, as she gazed into the mirror, Clara saw exhaustion gradually overtaking her features. She realized their relationship was no longer just about love. It had become a relentless battle against public opinion and the formidable Grayson family. One evening, as Clara sat quietly in her apartment, Peter walked in, his eyes filled with worry as he saw her gazing into the distance in silence. "Are you okay?" he asked gently, stepping forward to embrace her from behind. She nodded, but her voice was barely a whisper. "I don't know how much longer I can keep going, Peter." Peter tightened his hold on her. "I'll protect you, Clara. We can get through this together." But Clara knew the reality wasn't that simple. She had fought, she had tried, but she couldn't deny the exhaustion that was draining her mind and heart. "Do you think I'm a burden to you?" she asked, her voice laced with sadness. Peter shook his head, his gaze filled with sincerity. "Never. You are the woman I love." Yet love, no matter how strong, couldn't always withstand the relentless pressures from the outside world. Clara took a deep breath, her eyes reflecting newfound determination. "Peter, I can't do this anymore. I need time. I need space to think." Peter froze, pain flickering in his eyes. "Clara, you can't leave me." She smiled softly, though tears had already welled up in her eyes. "Sometimes loving someone doesn't mean holding on. I just want you to be happy without having to choose between me and your family." The next morning, Clara left the apartment, leaving behind a simple note on the table. "Peter, I love you, but perhaps our love needs a pause. Don't look for me. If it's meant to be, we will find our way back to each other." Peter held the letter, his heart shattering into pieces. The once lively apartment, filled with laughter and warmth, now felt unbearably empty. Clara was gone, taking his heart with her. Leaving London behind, Clara sought refuge in a smaller town, a place where she could start over and escape the overwhelming pressure she had endured. She knew she needed time to heal, to rediscover herself, before she could face Peter again. Sitting motionless on the old wooden chair in her mother's small kitchen in the remote countryside of England, Clara gazed out at the endless fields stretching before her, a thin veil of mist covering the serene landscape she had longed for after the stormy months in London. But this tranquility couldn't mask the turmoil raging inside her. On the table, a pregnancy test with 2 vivid red lines lay unmistakably, a confirmation she couldn't ignore. Clara felt her heart sink. She gently placed a hand on her abdomen, where a tiny life was beginning to form, and a silent tear rolled down her cheek. She couldn't believe it. She had left London to escape the chaos, to forget Peter and the overwhelming pressure from his family. Yet now this pregnancy had changed everything. Should I tell Peter? The question echoed in her mind repeatedly, but the answer remained elusive. Clara imagined how Peter might react. Would he be thrilled, or would he feel burdened by the responsibility? More than anyone, she understood the complexities of his life, the weight he carried as the heir to one of England's largest financial empires. Taking a deep breath, she looked out the window where her mother was tending to the lavender garden with gentle, patient hands. Clara knew she couldn't hide forever, but she also wasn't ready to face Peter just yet. After many sleepless nights, she made the difficult decision to keep this secret to herself. She moved back in with her mother, far from the dazzling lights of the city, and began crafting a new life. In this peaceful countryside, she hoped to find the serenity needed to prepare for single motherhood. Clara started researching baby care, taking on remote freelance work to maintain financial independence. She refused to rely on anyone, not even Peter. Day by day, she felt the changes in her body and slowly embraced the growing life within her. She reassured herself that she would be a strong mother, just as she had always faced life's challenges with resilience. While Clara was rebuilding her life in quiet solitude, Peter was drowning in sorrow back in London. He had searched for her everywhere, but all efforts were in vain. Her apartment was empty, her phone unreachable. Each passing day deepened his sense of loss. Clara's sudden departure left Peter a shadow of his former self. Work no longer excited him, decisions were delayed, and important meetings were missed. Grayson Holdings gradually slipped into crisis. Major projects were stalled, partners began losing faith, and stock prices plummeted. The board of directors grew increasingly concerned about his unstable leadership, with some members quietly discussing potential replacements. At night, Peter often sat alone in his vast apartment, staring at the sofa where Clara used to sit and work, or the kitchen where she would brew him tea. Memories of her haunted him relentlessly. "Why did you leave without a word?" he whispered into the darkness, his heart aching with regret and frustration. One day, while shopping at a small local market, Clara overheard a group of people discussing Grayson Holdings' financial troubles. "They say the company is on the brink of collapse. Who would have thought such a huge empire could end up like this?" Clara froze, her heart clenching. She hurried home, opened her laptop, and searched for news. Headlines flooded the screen. Grayson Holdings faces imminent collapse. CEO Peter Grayson struggles amid a series of failures. Her hands trembled as she read each article, confirming what she had feared all along. Her departure had not only affected Peter personally, but had also impacted the empire he had worked so hard to build. Sitting in silence, Clara placed her hand on her stomach. She realized she could no longer stay on the sidelines. This child was a symbol of their love, and she couldn't let the man she loved spiral into ruin without taking action. She knew returning to London meant facing public scrutiny, opposition from his family, and judgmental stares from everyone around them. But deep inside, Clara understood that she couldn't keep running forever. That night, she lay awake, gently caressing her growing belly. This baby deserved a family, and Peter deserved to know the truth. Taking a deep breath, her gaze hardened with determination. Clara Bennett had never been one to back down from a challenge. If she could withstand the pressures of her career, she could face her past and fight for their future. The next day, Clara booked a ticket back to London. Her heart was a mix of anticipation and fear, but above all, determination. She knew that facing Peter wouldn't be easy, but she was ready to confront the truth, for the sake of her child and for the love she had never truly forgotten. As the morning sunlight bathed the platform in a golden glow, Clara stepped onto the train bound for London, the city where both turmoil and happiness awaited her. Clara stepped off the train in London, taking a deep breath as the city's crisp winter air enveloped her. The gray sky mirrored the complex emotions swirling inside her. Gently placing her hands on her growing belly, she whispered to herself, "This time, I'm not here to run away. I'm here to fight." Memories flooded back, leaving everything behind, the emptiness of abandoning love and the anxiety of carrying Peter's child. But Clara knew there was no time to dwell on the past. Grayson Holdings was in crisis, and only she could help Peter navigate this storm. As she entered the towering headquarters of Grayson Holdings, all eyes turned to her. Her sudden reappearance caught her former colleagues by surprise. Whispers spread through the corridors, and curious gazes followed her every step. Clara walked straight to the boardroom, where an emergency meeting was underway. Inside, Peter stood at the head of the table, looking more exhausted and worn than ever. The moment their eyes met, time seemed to freeze. "Clara?" Peter's voice was hoarse with disbelief, his eyes filled with a mixture of shock and pain. She nodded, stepping forward with the confidence that once commanded the respect of everyone in the room. "Good afternoon, Mr. Grayson. I'm here to help." The tension in the room was palpable. The board members exchanged uncertain glances, unsure how to react to Clara's sudden return. Peter regained his composure, but his gaze never left her. "You came back." Clara's voice was steady but resolute. "I know the company is struggling. I have a plan that can turn things around." Peter's eyes bore into hers, emotions clashing, anger, longing, and unanswered questions. Yet beneath it all, he knew one thing. If anyone could save Grayson Holdings, it was Clara Bennett. After the meeting, they faced each other in his office. Peter stood with his arms crossed, his sharp eyes betraying the longing he had buried for so long. "Are you really here to help? Or are you just trying to prove something?" he asked, his voice laced with skepticism. Clara took a deep breath, placing a folder on his desk. "I know I left without an explanation, but Peter, I understand this company better than anyone. I have a concrete plan to bring it back to its former glory." As she turned to leave, Peter gently caught her wrist, his voice trembling slightly. "What are you hiding from me, Clara?" She froze, avoiding his gaze. "I don't know what you mean." Peter stepped closer, his hand slowly resting on her abdomen. Clara held her breath, her body stiffening under his touch. "It's my child, isn't it?" His voice was raw, filled with unspoken emotions. Clara's walls crumbled. She closed her eyes and nodded softly. "Yes, I was going to keep it from you, but..." Peter stepped back, running a shaky hand through his hair, his face a mixture of shock and an undeniable joy. "Clara, why didn't you tell me sooner? Did you go through all this alone?" Taking a deep breath, Clara steadied herself. "I was afraid you'd think I was using the baby to hold on to you. I didn't want to be a burden when you were already facing so much." Without warning, Peter pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly as if afraid she would disappear again. "You are never a burden, Clara. You're everything to me and to our baby." In that moment, they stood together, their hearts beating as one, finally allowing themselves to feel the love that had never truly faded. With renewed determination, Peter welcomed Clara into the restructuring efforts of Grayson Holdings. Side by side, they tackled each challenge: intense investor meetings, strategic presentations to regain shareholder confidence, and late-night planning sessions. Clara proved herself not only as a formidable financial strategist, but also as Peter's unwavering support. Slowly, the company began to recover, regaining its foothold in the market. Clara's expertise and resilience helped Peter rediscover his own strength and drive. Despite their professional progress, personal challenges loomed large. Lady Eleanor Grayson was far from pleased with Clara's return, especially upon learning that she carried the future heir to the Grayson legacy. One evening, Clara found herself face-to-face with Lady Eleanor at the Grand Grayson estate. The older woman's icy gaze was as sharp as ever. "Do you think having Peter's child will make me change my mind about you?" Lady Eleanor's voice was laced with disdain. Clara met her gaze head-on, unshaken. "I don't need your approval, Lady Grayson. All I need is Peter's love and faith in myself." For a fleeting moment, a flicker of respect crossed Lady Eleanor's face before she offered a half-smile. "You truly are a formidable woman." As days turned into weeks, Peter made every effort to be by Clara's side. He was attentive to her every need, reminding her to rest and ensuring she was taken care of amidst their hectic schedules. One late evening at the office, Peter placed a gentle hand on her growing belly, his voice tender. "We're going to do this together. You know that?" Clara smiled, resting her head against him. "I know, and I believe in us." They had weathered countless storms, but this time, they vowed not to let anything tear them apart again. Their love had endured the test of time and challenges, and now they had a little miracle to prove it. Are you still following the story? Please leave your thoughts about our story. We would love to hear your feedback to create even more amazing stories in the future. Grayson Holdings has officially escaped the brink of bankruptcy. After months of relentless effort, Clara and Peter successfully revived the company, regaining the trust of investors and the market. The key projects have started generating profits, and the company's stock is gradually recovering. Everything is back on track, but for Peter, the most important realization was not just the revival of Grayson Holdings, but Clara's presence in his life. That evening, all employees of Grayson Holdings were invited to a grand celebration at the Ritz Hotel in London. The ballroom sparkled with crystal chandeliers, the soft melodies of music filled the air, and congratulations echoed throughout the hall. Clara, wearing an elegant navy blue evening gown, that accentuated her graceful figure despite her visibly growing belly, captivated Peter's gaze the entire evening. Amid the lively chatter of the guests, Clara felt proud and happy, knowing that all her efforts had finally paid off. But what she didn't expect was that Peter had planned a special moment, something that would change their lives forever. As the celebration reached its peak, the lights suddenly dimmed, leaving a single spotlight on Peter as he stepped onto the stage. Holding a microphone, his eyes filled with emotion as they locked onto Clara. "I want to thank everyone here for standing by us during the toughest time in our company's history." He paused, his gaze overflowing with love as he looked at Clara. "But there's one person I want to thank above all. The woman who not only saved this company, but also saved my heart." The room fell into a hushed silence. Clara was caught off guard and flustered as Peter stepped down from the stage and walked straight toward her. In front of the entire company, he dropped to one knee, holding a small velvet box that revealed a sparkling diamond ring. "Clara Bennett," Peter's deep, heartfelt voice resonated. "You came into my life like a storm, turning everything upside down. You are not only an intelligent, strong woman, but also the only one I want by my side for the rest of my life. Will you marry me?" The room erupted into applause and cheers. Clara covered her mouth in surprise, tears welling in her eyes as her heart pounded in her chest. Looking into Peter's sincere gaze, she knew that every challenge they had faced was worth it. "Yes, I will." Peter beamed with joy, sliding the ring onto her finger before pulling her into a tight embrace. The room filled with cheers and champagne glasses were raised to celebrate the couple. A few days later, Clara and Peter visited the Grayson family estate to share the good news. Lady Eleanor Grayson, who had once firmly opposed Clara, now saw her in a different light. She observed Clara, the woman who had proven her worth not just in business, but in her unwavering love for Peter. Lady Eleanor gazed at Clara for a long moment before stepping forward, gently placing a hand on her belly. "My grandchild deserves a complete family," she said, her voice softer than ever. "Welcome to the Grayson family." Clara was overwhelmed with emotion. Finally, she had earned the acceptance and recognition of Peter's family, a major step forward in their relationship. Their wedding took place at the Grayson family's ancestral castle, an intimate yet grand celebration in the traditional British style, attended by close family and friends. Clara wore an elegant wedding gown, walking hand in hand with Peter down the magnificent hall, their eyes filled with happiness and pride for all they had overcome together. As time passed, their lives grew even more fulfilling. They moved to a grand estate in the suburbs of London, surrounded by vast gardens, an ideal place to raise their children in peace and tranquility. On a beautiful spring morning, Peter stood on the balcony of their estate, holding their newborn daughter, a beautiful little girl with his same blue eyes. Clara stood beside him, resting her head on his shoulder, a radiant smile on her lips. "Do you have any regrets?" Clara asked softly, gazing at him with affection. Peter kissed her forehead gently. "If I do, it's that I didn't propose to you sooner." They laughed, looking forward to the future ahead, one filled with love, career success, and a happy little family. From that fateful night in a luxury hotel to the challenges they had faced, family opposition, work struggles, and public scrutiny, Clara and Peter had endured it all. But in the end, their genuine love and resilience had triumphed over every obstacle. To Clara, Peter was not just a powerful billionaire, but the love of her life. And to Peter, Clara was his anchor, the only woman strong enough to stand beside him without ever backing down. They proved that true love isn't just about passion, it's about companionship, sacrifice, and unwavering trust, no matter the challenges ahead. Thank you for following our story. Please leave your thoughts about it. If you enjoyed the